Welcome to the Books and Martinis podcast.
I'm Priya.
And I'm Mercy.
And this is your go-to book podcast,
where we lift, empower, and spotlight authors.
Grab your martini and follow along.
And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to our podcast. I'm Priya.
And I'm Mercy. Welcome, Priya. Welcome, everybody. And a very special welcome to John Mangold. Cheers, everybody,
cheers,
and welcome.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here.
We're so happy to have you.
We're happy to have you.
We had a full-on conversation before we hopped on. And you can't see it, but John's sitting in a gamer chair and he has Marvel para behind him. So
yes,
we had to get into it a little bit.
I'm quite the nerd, I know.
Oh, well,
I
fun. That means fun.
Oh, I'm happy to be one. I'm a card-carrying nerd since I was a teenager. So.
Oh, I love it. And we're here to talk about his book, The Sorcerer's Inception, The Scrolls of Azbek. Did I say it right?
That's correct.
Yes. And it's book one in a 3-book series. And
actually four, I think.
4-book series.
He's working on a 4th.
Yes.
Yeah, that was news to us today.
Yeah. So, and we'll talk more because I think John's working on other stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But we're so excited to have you here today, and we would just want to kick it off. Why don't you tell our readers and our listeners and our viewers more about yourself?
Okay. Well, I was born near Lake Valhalla, New Jersey. Grew up in Western New York, kind of near Niagara Falls. Spent a brief stint in Catholic school. Served in the United States Army as an aircraft power plant repairman. Most of my time was in special ops, and travel around the world: Germany, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Panama, Honduras. Mainly spent quite a bit of time in Egypt and Israel.
Well, thank you for your service before you go on.
Thank you. I just did my job. But, and graduated from, when I got out, I graduated from Georgia Tech in industrial design. And I'm currently living in northeastern Alabama, working in a test lab, where it's kind of my job to break things. So makes for an interesting job.
Who is that? Oh, wow.
Sounds like
we all want to be John when we grow up.
It's interesting, that's for sure.
What an interesting past and present. Oh my God, John. So small tidbit, I went to Syracuse.
Okay.
I went to upstate New York, Buffalo, schools around there, partying in all the schools, going up to Niagara Falls to go across the border.
Yeah, you always go to Canada. That's the best view. That's why anytime someone came to visit, we would take them over to the Canadian side. You get such a beautiful view of the falls.
Yes, I think it's a better side, to be honest.
Yeah, it is.
I love it. Okay, and let's get into your book.
Can I mention that I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I have some notes here. So we have a trilogy this is a trilogy, Priya. Okay.
Yes.
We have a trilogy.
Quadrology, but yes.
Thank you. That's already out. We know we're waiting for the 4th book, but as of now, we have the first book being The Sorcerer's Inception. Did I say that right?
Sorcerer's Inception, yeah.
Thank you. The second book is called The Manifold of Bindings.
That's correct.
And the third one is A Trader's Path.
Yes.
Okay. And this is all from the Scrolls of Azbek?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. So there's 3 books out there, listeners, and there's a 4th one coming. I believe your first book came out approximately 2020?
Around there, yes. I'm, of course, getting it ready in 2019. And then I was able to release the second one reasonably soon after that, because it was already completed. I just was doing editing. And then, because I had taken a little bit of break in writing, came back and finished the 3rd novel. And that one was, I think just a year or 2 ago when I finally came out with that one. So now my goal is the 4th one will be done by the end of this year and releasing in first quarter 2026.
Beautiful. Congrats on that. That's fantastic. If you had to say, and now this is more for our authors, from the moment that the idea popped in your head and you started either typing or writing it to the minute that you decided, okay, it's ready for me to present to the world, how long was that writing process? At least in the first book, which is usually, I think, the longest.
Yes. And that was definitely the case there. I was very fortunate as when I was writing it, there was a really wonderful author, A.C. Crispin. I don't know if you're familiar with her work. She did quite a few Star Wars novels. She also did, I think it was The Price of Freedom, which was the prequel for Jack Sparrow for the Pirates of the Caribbean. She passed away, unfortunately, in 2014. But she used to do a great writing seminar at DragonCon, which is something I definitely advise any beginning authors. Go to DragonCon, go to the writing track, because you can learn so much, you get so much inspiration. But at any rate, so yeah, I was doing my first drafts. What's that?
She's taking notes.
Okay. Yes, I mean I just gained so much from being there because, of course they give you all sorts of ideas on plot lines, developing characters, whatnot. And then her course, of course, you submit some of your writing, and that was my first draft at the time, and she gave me so much great feedback. So it probably took a little bit, like as you say, it was a little bit longer because my first draft was a bit short. I actually had to add in a little bit more. So I'd say it probably took 2 years before I was to something I really felt was ready, to be released.
Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful.
And what inspired what inspired you to write this series?
Well, a lot of my inspiration comes from music, and that's been ever since I was very young. And I just, usually I just would get snippets, ideas for characters and stories. But especially when I was in high school, I told some people, so a couple of my friends about it, and they were probably trying to help. They gave me some rather harsh criticism, at least I felt at the time. So I kind of withdrew, and I just like, okay, well, I'm not going to tell anyone about these stories. Now, flash forward to 2003 when I was married. I was blessed to marry my lovely wife, June. And we would drive from where we live in Alabama down to Savannah to visit family. And as we're going, I'd listen, of course, to our music. And she would just notice I get this kind of far off look in my eyes. And she would say, well, where are you going when you hear this song or that song? And at first I was like, I don't know if I want to tell her because my new bride, she's going to think I'm a nut job. And,
I'm married.
She's going to be calling to see if they'll pick me up and haul me off. Yeah. But I was like, well, I got to tell her. So I began just saying, okay, when this song comes on, I think of this character and they're doing this and this is what they're going through. And a couple times, I guess I even got her to cry a little bit. And she was like, well, have you ever written any of these down? And I was like, well, no, because I just never thought anyone would want to hear it. And so she was the one that really started talking me into not only writing my characters, because at the time I was putting them in a world for a tabletop game. It's very popular at the time. And she was like, well, put it in your own world. So, it's not fan fiction, but create your own world. And so it was just, she was the one to really start pushing me, and I started writing. And then, as I say, going to DragonCon, I got really great inspiration from there. And ever since then, I mean, still, I get a lot of inspiration just from music that'll give me great idea for scenes and characters and leads me through the story.
That's amazing. I love that. What? Give me an example, because I'm like in the car still with you,
okay,
kind of listening to you say the story. An example of the kind of music.
Yeah,
are we listening to
trying
like
to think.
70s?
Yeah, what's on your playlist for the Sorcerer?
What are we listening?
Lord, if anyone listened to my music, I often joke about it. You'll get cultural bends because I can go anything from heavy metal to opera to classical, and it's all just a matter of what hits me. And a lot of times, I won't even suspect it until as I'm listening to a song, it's like I see the scene in my mind playing like a movie. A good example.
So let's be more specific. When you sat down and you were working on this one right here, what song took you here? What was the first song, or what's the one song you can relate?
See, now I have to.
So the main characters.
The main characters in the opening scene when Maluem is on the field with her dying master, and Volo is there next to her, and there is a song. I believe I want to say it's by the band A Perfect Circle, and it is just a very slow, very, I almost want to say desolate song, but it perfectly plays out in my mind, because that was where I started thinking of the scene of her master who is laying on the ground dying, and as he's kind of confronting Maluem, that he knew that for a long time she's been hiding her abilities. That because, and as you find out in the story, she was trying to learn as much as she could from him before she was, quote unquote, graduated to the Sorcerer's Inception, because she had been out in the world on her own before, knew how hard it was. And so she was going to try and take advantage as much as she could. And now he's confronting her and saying, I know what you really are, your skill level really is, and you need, basically you are now out on your own and you need to learn how to deal with it. And it's just,
No
and
pressure.
I wish I could play the song for you because it's like, and listening to it, I mean, especially while I was writing it, I literally drew tears to my eyes because I could just feel what each character was feeling as they were going through it.
Wow.
That's intense. You need to release that playlist. You need to
Yeah.
promote it
it's
with that
all over the
playlist.
place. That's what I was trying to think. There's one I love that's actually, Ode to Joy, which of course I think everyone knows. And that is actually in the third novel where, and again, try not to get too much into the weeds, but one of the characters that you get introduced to, Cruennis, one of her abilities, she was built as an assassin and she has an ability with her voice that she can scream and basically paralyze her victim because
like
she
a
will
siren.
send.
Like a
Yeah, a
siren.
little bit. It's like it has a psionic ability because it will throw them into some of their worst memories, and that
Ooh.
stuns them long enough so she can come in and get the killing blow. Well, there's a moment in the third novel where she is kind of, actually, I take that back. I don't know if I,
Wait,
but it
was that a
was,
spoiler?
Oh, yes, that's a
that's actually a
spoiler.
scene in the fourth novel. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's okay.
But it's not really a spoiler because I'm not giving too much away here.
Okay.
Some of it was
Well,
already
you caught
hinted at the
yourself,
third
so.
one. Yes. But the point being is that she's in a low point. She's at a festival actually thrown in her honor, and they are playing a national anthem that she knows well, but they're messing it up. And as she's listening to him, she's becoming more and more irritated because they keep mispronouncing.
Sure.
So if you listen to the song, the way it kind of has a back and forth is where she begins correcting them and she's unconsciously using that skill to the point where she turns the whole crowd against the orchestra and that they're singing along with her and overpowering the orchestra. And to me, it's a very powerful scene because it is Cruennis coming to the realization she can be more than a weapon, that she doesn't
Yeah.
have to just be this ex-assassin, that she actually can use her voice for something more than causing harm. And that's like
Wow.
the
That is
first moment she
powerful.
sees that. So yeah, and then that's going to play out in the final battle, and I won't say how. So
And I noticed also that you have a lot of incredible characters. And I mean, some come and go, like in most stories, but of all the characters, which is your favorite character or the one you can identify with the most? And I know
yeah,
it's
I
hard
was.
because there's so many and you're connected to them.
And that's the way I
Your
think of them because,
creations.
yeah, I was looking at that question and I was like, oh, that's going to be hard because I mean, they're all kind of like I think of like my mental children.
Mm.
Right.
And each of them hit me differently. Like, of course, Maluem is, part of me in that some of the things that she deals with, like especially not liking to be touched, that actually comes from my love of being inspired by music. And when I would be sitting on the school bus listening to music and being inspired, and someone would come up and touch me on the shoulder, a lot of times, especially when I was a teenager, I would not react well. I would get very upset, and they didn't understand why. So I ended up pushing people away without intending to.
Right.
So that's kind of Maluem is very close to me. Cruennis is very close because the way she gets into a rage, and I think about especially back when I was in the military and how if I can get angry, of course she's much higher level than I ever was, but I definitely understand where that comes from. Uh, and then Cadus, when you
So
haven't,
all the characters are a part of your personality, essentially.
they're basically like
They're all
shards of
you.
myself. Yes,
I
just
love that.
expanded and exaggerated because every single one has a little bit of piece of me in them. So yeah,
Yeah.
even some parts of me I don't necessarily like sometimes. And
Aw.
It's out
so
there in a character somewhere.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, and in my next series, it's more of them, more of the same. I'll use the characters, like I said, are shards of myself, just in different ways.
And when we were teenagers, we couldn't say it, but nowadays you do something like that and you have a scenario like that on a school bus, and all the guy's gonna say is, "Hey, you killed my jam. What are you doing?" Right?
Yeah, I couldn't say that back then.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. So I know that there's a tremendous amount of world building going on in your book. So you have all the character development, you have the world building, and it's fantastical. There's so much stuff going on. What makes your book stand out from other books in this genre?
Well, I know a lot of my world building comes from a lot of my reading, which is something that, I know as they say as an author, you need to do. It
Mhm.
also comes from, again, when I was younger, I actually had dreams that I was going to make a movie. So I would sit
Mm.
and I would study movies, even B movies. Like I'm talking about in the 90s. I had a good friend who would record and copy movies. I must have seen every straight to video sci-fi flick that was ever created, at least through the beginning of 1990 to the 2000s. And I was always studying, okay, why was this good? Why did this stink? Why were these characters kind of flat? What have you. So when I started sitting down to build my world, one of the things that always irked me whenever, because I already had the idea I wanted to mix magic and technology. But what often irked me when I saw that was technology seemed to always just kind of go the same way it did in our world. Just, you had magic on the side, but you still had cars, planes, everything acting the way that it does in our world. And I was just thinking, well, what if you did have magic where it could act as a fuel source, or it could take the place of other things where you're using that instead of a lighter, you're using that instead of a computer. And so that was a lot of my world building. And then I was thinking, because this is another series that I was looking at, where it seemed like it just took a long time for technology to, say, recoup after this apocalypse. There were 2,000 years and everybody was still on horses and carriages. I was like, well, 2,000 years, some things should have developed unless someone was stopping it. And so that's what began my whole construction of Asbeal, where you have four parts, pretty much corners of the world, where magic and technology work differently in each part of the world. And
Mm-hmm.
it's because there are powers behind the scenes that are keeping it that way, because that's the way they want their part of the world to run. Some think that their people are better off if they are living very simple lives and very medieval lives. Others see that if they have tech and if they're constantly conflicting with each other, that makes them stronger, and that they feel that's better for their people. So each part of the world is run differently. When you're first introduced to it, you don't know that that's all going on behind the scenes. All you know is, well, magic works here, technology works better here, or sometimes technology works and then magic works the next day. It's not until you start getting into the series and you start learning that, yes, there are powers behind the scenes that are making all this happen. And that's, what fueled my whole creation of Asbeal.
I
Kind of like
love that.
it's like a Marvel reference here, multiverse.
A
Yes.
bit like
A
Yes.
that.
bit like that. I'm also thinking of
Actually,
Lord of the Rings almost, with all the different like areas,
And eras, right?
well,
yeah,
all the
Also.
different like civilizations
Mm-hmm.
in that world. And
yeah.
the hobbits didn't know anything about like the orcs, and there were all
Right.
these different worlds happening at the same
Or
time.
Gondor, and yeah, actually,
Yeah.
absolutely. And actually, I don't know if you're familiar with this, the game system, but it's by Games Workshop called Warhammer 40,000. I was a huge fan of that. I played it a great deal when I was in the army to save money. I was a
No, isn't
barracks
there a
rat.
movie coming out? Isn't a Warhammer movie coming out? I
They
think
talked
Henry's
about
working
it.
on it. I think
Yeah,
Henry's working on it.
Henry Cavill was talking about doing it. I mean, knowing the game the way I do, it is going to be one heck of a feat for him to pull it
Mm,
off, because it
yeah.
is just very over the top, and it's going to be very interesting. I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Uh, but one of the things in that world is you have this area called the Eye of Terror, which is kind of a rip in space-time continuum, and within that realm, the Chaos Gods pretty much run their planets the way they want. So you have these terror planets where just insanely, basically, they control laws of physics. So whatever they want to happen happens.
Mm.
And like I said, I started playing that back in 1997 when it first came out. So reading through the lore that came out at the time, which they cranked out a ton of, that also influenced and gave me a lot of idea of, okay, yeah, you have these godlike characters who can make the world work the way they want it to. And as the mortals that are just going through it, they are at their whim, until, like in this case, though, the characters do get to influence it by the end of
Mhm.
the series. But
Yeah.
yeah, that also was a lot of inspiration for me.
And as an author, what does that world building physically look like in your physical world? Are you the type that sits there like with a huge board and stickies, and then you're kind of putting this world is this and that world is that? Do you do it where it's visual, or do you do everything on your computer?
I think a little of both, because when I was first planning it out, I actually sketched out the map and everything, and it's very crude looking. I think I still have it somewhere. I don't know if you can see, but on my board back here, actually,
I
that's the
do.
map of the world.
Oh.
And
Okay.
I just recently had those printed out by a good friend of ours, Lewis Color, down in Savannah. And
Okay.
It's
yes,
not in the book.
the
Huh?
first book does not have the map, because I was kind of approaching it the way you do in a video game, which is, as you explore, and the more the map reveals. So if you look in the beginning of the second book,
Oh,
you see
we
the
don't
beginning part of the map.
we don't have the second book,
Oh, okay. Well,
unfortunately.
let's see. I
You gotta
know.
show, you gotta show it on the screen and describe it.
And yeah, this
Oh,
actually gives you a good feel for where you begin in Camilos and with Nisi and going to the border with Enox. And then, because this actually is where you're exploring in the second book, then
Yeah.
is going through Enox up into Santillis. And then, of course, this one ends on the Tier of Aziza with the final climactic battle. And then in the third one, and again, this reveals a little bit more
Maps
of
are
the map.
so important when you have like intricate fantasy and sci-fi stories. They're so important.
Oh, I
absolutely.
agree.
You get the visual.
Yeah.
And you get a good feeling of what's going on. And as I kept that same area that was revealed in the first one, then of course it reveals more. The fourth book is going to have the entire map. And I will say, as an author, that was a little bit of fudging, just because there were parts of the world that, as I was going through the series, I knew where the key points were. I knew where everything major was going to happen. But there were other areas I wanted to show to give a feel for that this is a world. It's not just the path where my characters are following. So in releasing the map in stages, I was able to flesh out in my own mind, okay, well, what are the extra, what are the other towns and cities that are nearby? And should the series continue, because I won't basically slam the door when the fourth book comes out that I can't continue with other characters.
Never know. You
Yeah.
can get to the last page and be like, maybe I got a little bit more for the fifth book.
Yeah. Well, that's I have a lot of characters. The fourth one, you get to meet some of the characters that you're introduced to in the first ones that kind of, as you say, fade out because they're not in the second and third, but they come back.
Yeah.
And I have parts of the world that can be explored, and depending on how things shift, we could end up coming back to Asbeal and exploring, other corners. So yeah, I just wanted to drop little
You
Easter eggs
can
like that I could pick up.
absolutely. You can even enter prequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, prequel territory,
Oh.
definitely.
Prequels are so challenging though. So yeah, I don't even want to
They
think
are.
about that.
Okay,
Because
we
you
will.
got to
We
make
will.
sure you have everything aligned, or it just starts falling apart. And then you have the people like me who will be saying, "Well, wait a minute, you
Breaking
said."
it down. Hey, wait a second. How is he that old at that point?
Exactly. Or how's
Yeah.
they there? They should be over here. And yeah, so I'm gonna be spending a lot of time thinking about it before I do that.
So now that you've basically written 4 books, because we're going to assume that the fourth one is basically almost done,
It
and
is.
3 are already out, what is the strongest advice in a nutshell that you could give an aspiring author or an author that's already out there, but maybe he's getting cold feet, or they're kind of having imposter syndrome, which we just had on one of our amazing authors who was telling us
Imposter
that
monster. That's what she said.
Yeah.
that's what she
Imposter.
called
That's
it,
good.
which
I
is
heard.
sad because she's an incredible author. And of course, we're our worst enemy. So we always try to give encouraging words to other authors out there.
Absolutely.
What advice would you give?
Well, I mean, and one thing is, don't feel if you do have imposter syndrome that you're the only one, because heck, I've heard that same thing from George R. R. Martin has even said, he sat down to write and
Out of
felt
all
like,
people in the world saying those words, him and
I
Stephen
know.
King and James Patterson are like in their own little like club. They shouldn't even be saying those words.
Oh, I know, but I mean, and it's amazing how, and I know this is kind of a offshoot, but one of my favorite radio programs I listen to is Jack Benny, if you're familiar with it. It's an old radio program. And they were very witty, very fast with their comedy. And his wife, Mary Livingston, would be on there with him, and she was just as fast. Well, I found out afterwards she suffered from horrible stage fright. And evidently it was traumatic for her every time she went in, but you listened to her and you would never know it. Now, to me, it's the same thing. Like you talk about these big name authors, you would think, oh, they don't have to worry about that. But it does affect pretty well. I wouldn't say everybody, but there's a lot of people who do have that same effect. So don't feel like you're the only one. The one thing, like I said, that I always tell every writer when they come up to me, especially if I'm at a show and they say, "Hey, I'm working on this and that." Well, first off, I always say go to DragonCon, go on Writers Triumph,
I'm gonna try to
Writers
hit
Track.
that up, Dragon Con. Because I
It
do
is.
sci-fi too. I do sci-fi fantasy. So
Oh, it's a fan con, so there's stuff for everybody, whatever you're into, whether you, and again, the tracks are like if you're into writing, if you want to make movies, if you want to just learn how movies are made. But there's so much to do there. But I know the writer's track is great because if, like you say, you're getting cold feet, or maybe you just feel like you've gotten so far in your story and you feel like you've got writer's block, you don't know where to go. There are really great seminars there that will help you get inspiration, and you'll be talking to other people who have run into similar problems and how they work their way through.
Yeah.
And of course, the other advice I give is one you'll hear from everybody from Stephen King. I mean, pretty much every author is read, especially in your genre. Read. That way you can pick up a lot of the tropes that maybe you want to avoid. You'll pick up some inspiration that maybe you can take in a new direction. But also not just in your own genre, but books on writing. Because I listed 3 that I really thought were instrumental for me. And it doesn't have to be necessarily on writing novels. Like one of my favorites is Save the Cat, which is by
I was
Blake
just
Snyder.
thinking that. So so okay, my brain exploded just now.
But yeah, I mean he's awesome for just because he's writing screenplays. Now he writes God rest his soul, I should say, but he wrote for business. He was, very business minded. He would have everything plotted out before he put down paragraph 1. He's figured out all of his, the 3 acts. He's figured out where each break for each act is. Now I can't. Yes, that's it. I've read that so many times, and I can't say I follow his model exactly, but it is a really great method to plan, and also just he gives some great advice on issues that you can avoid, and to make a story better. Contrasting to that is On Writing by Stephen King, where he is very much what some would call a pantser, very organic, and he has one little exercise in there that I loved. Which I don't write like Stephen King. I don't write horror. I generally like writing just fun adventure.
What's the name of the book again? What's the name?
It's called On Writing.
On Writing.
It is pretty much a biography because he talks a lot about his life, his upbringing, and how he began writing. And you will get a good idea of why his stories are the way they are once you listen to it. But he has one point in there because he will use the analogy of writing being like an archaeologist, and you're digging up bones. And so, he's very organic. He doesn't plan anything out at first. It's just you're going along and you develop your character, and your character has this problem. So where does that lead? And okay, that causes this problem. So he gives kind of just a sketchy outline of a story. And he says, okay, well, here's your character. Here's the dilemma she finds herself in. And here's the problem. And then he flips it at the last moment and says, okay, well, instead of it being the wife that's going through this, it's the husband. Okay, now you write it. And he said, you write it down, send it in to me, and I'll be happy to look at it. Now, I really wasn't sure as I was listening to it, but once he hit the end, I pieced together quite a few things in my mind. Said, oh my God, I got the story. And it was just a short story. I wrote it down. It's called The Blue Mug. I haven't released it, but I went ahead and, of course, I reached out to Stephen King and come to find out, well, he received a lot more reactions than he expected. And they said,
he responded to you? He responded to you?
Oh, no, it wasn't. I got their answering machine, and they were just like, Mr.
I'm
King.
sure everybody bombarded him with stories already written.
That's what they said. They're like, Mr. King did not expect this much of a response, so thank you very much, but we're not taking any more submissions. Yeah. But nevertheless, it was a great exercise for me. I still love what I came up with, and I'm debating when, because it's very much a derivation from what I normally write, but it's a great book to kind of look at the opposite side of the flip side from Save the Cat, in that it's very organic writing. And then the other one, if you just want some general advice on writing, is a book called Murder Your Darlings by Roy Peter Clarke.
Oh, how cool. Oh, I like that name.
Yeah.
And that one I've never heard of. Murder Your Darlings. Okay.
It sounds pretty brutal, but it's tied to, the advice that was from Strunk & White. Basically, remove
Can you repeat the
We're taking notes, John.
Okay. And actually, I wish I have the book, but it's in my book bag. It's Elements of Style.
Oh, yeah.
By Strunk & White. I believe I'm saying that correctly. And they will
That's from high school. That's from high school.
Oh, yeah, but it's amazing how many things in there, and especially if you're coming back to writing and, maybe you haven't written in a little while, it'll remind you of quite a few of the basic elements, but one of the fundamental things in there is the advice and omit needless words.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what Murder Your Darlings is talking about is, you write out your first draft, and I've had to do this a few times where you might have a line you just really love, or you have a scene that you really love, but when you really start going back, you realize, okay, it just doesn't fit the way it used to. The story has shifted, maybe the characters have changed, and now it's not necessarily fitting, or maybe it's not necessarily as critical as it once was. You got to have the guts to go through and omit or kill your darlings, murder your darlings, as he would say, and
That's
pull
what it
that
is.
stuff out. But what's great about that book is it's actually him going over a number of books on writing that he loves, and he pulls out the most critical or salient lesson from each one. And it, again, goes from everything from writing fiction to nonfiction. And it's just a really, especially if you get the audiobook, the gentleman he had narrate it is fantastic. He has a voice that's very engaging, and it gives some wonderful advice and can give you some ideas of other books to read. But yeah, some I would definitely say to the budding authors is read books on writing. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be in your genre, because you can pull all sorts of stuff from all of them.
I love
And,
it. Look at you showing
That's
up.
great
Look at you.
advice.
like I
Our
said,
authors and our writers better be listening. This is some great
This
information.
is great advice. Oh my
I
God.
love it.
You got a whole
uh,
list of resources.
hopefully it'll
And
help.
yes, and so if any of our listeners, whether they are readers or writers, authors, or all of the above combined, and want to learn more about you or want to ask you questions on things that you've discussed, like these books or other advice, or even go further into your books and purchase the trilogy that's out right now, and looking forward to the fourth one, how can they find you?
Well, they can go to our website, which is www.barkingcur, all one word, .com.
Okay.
And we are also on Facebook. So you can look up JB Mangold, or again, Barking Cur. And we have my website or my Barking Cur website. So either one will lead to us. But particularly our website, because I feel bad being an industrial designer. I like to do all my own artwork, but I did lean on AI a little bit, and in order to create just some portraits of my characters, so that you get to see give you the idea of what some of our characters will look like on there, gives a little more background on them. And also, you can email me directly from our website, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have, from name pronunciations to if you, God forbid, you see any inconsistencies and say, hey, why the heck did this character do this? I love to get in discussions like that. I mean, that is one of my friends and I, we used to call ourselves the East Coast Nerd Herd. But that was what we loved to do, is whatever movie, and even the ones we loved, the ones we despised, but we would sit down and just tear them apart and say, okay, well,
Love
why did this
that.
character do this? Or why was the plot like this?
Yes,
And
yeah.
never really to pick, but more because the number of times I've been pulled something from that and then looked at myself and said, okay, well, am I doing that? Could I have developed this character, or could I have made this more clear? So yeah, I love discussing stories.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I know that we're going to be adding everything you said, um, so that our readers can actually, or our listeners can read and find your website. But to those that are unable to see us, I just wanted to make sure that your website is barking, as in a dog barking, C-U-R, barking cur, C-U-R. So that's to find
That's
your
correct.
website, just to make sure.
I
Yeah, and
love
just to
it.
give a little background on that, it comes from our mascot, which is a Chihuahua, and
Ah,
it's because that's my little Chihuahua, Lightning. Yes, that's him right there.
yeah, he's in the book too.
Yep,
That's so
and
cute.
Yeah.
yeah, he's usually on my lap when I'm writing, or he's in his little bed in my office. He's not in here right now because that boy, if he decides to bark, there is no warm up.
Oh,
It
we
is
know.
just immediate. And oh my
We know.
gosh.
I had to mute myself quite often because either Amazon was going by or somebody was driving by, and my little one here just goes crazy barking. She wants the world to stop because something's happening in the street.
Oh
So
yes.
we know.
You gotta love them, but yeah, they will do that.
Well, it
Oh,
was a pleasure talking to you
yes,
today,
John.
John. Thank you so much for sharing your book with us, The Sorcerer's Inception, The
Yes,
Scrolls of Azbek,
Yep.
yes,
all the
yes.
books. And we didn't get into it, but he said he might be dropping a sci-fi
That will be the next
series.
series, and as I said, I'm debating right now because I'd love to get traditionally published, but probably be a year, probably next year. No, I take that back. It'd probably be 2027. And that
Okay.
is the War Witch series. It is
Ooh.
sci-fi. And the way I usually pitch it is, if you're familiar with the movie Pitch Black with Vin Diesel,
Yeah.
And if you're familiar with the show, the Big Bang Theory,
Mhm.
Yes.
imagine the characters from the Big Bang Theory being thrown into pitch black. And that's
Okay, so
basically
is
what
it
you got.
comedy? Is it
Is
comedy?
more of it's, these four nerds that are very good in each of their own crafts, but they are not the most socially adept. Get thrown into a situation that is very much life or death. And the whole series starts where they are on a ship, a prototype ship, basically taking it out, running it through its, final tests. And one morning they wake up to find that the door to the bridge is locked, the engines are on full blast, and there seems to be a dead body in the captain's chair.
Oh,
And that's the way the
I
whole
want to
thing
read
starts.
that.
yeah, that sounds good.
So I've written the first two novels for that series, War Witch, and then the second one is Core Crusher. I just want to polish them a little bit more, and then I'll come out with those, and that is going to be at least a 4-book series when it's all done.
Wow, in the mind
Well-
of John Mangold.
Right. I can
Seriously.
tell you, John, I can listen to you all day long. But we would love to cover that series when you have it ready
Yes.
to go
Awesome.
on.
I
Send
want to
us
read
the-
that.
Yeah, send us a book so we can read it ahead of time, and we
Absolutely.
can have you come back because we would love that.
Yeah.
Now
let's
you
do
can
it. One
actually-
final cheers.
He can
Cheers.
enjoy
Thank you
his
so
whole
much for
drink.
joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
Oh, it's been our
Everyone,
pleasure
check
having
out
you.
all the information in the summary and how to get in touch with John. Follow him. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Make sure you purchase his books and support his work as an indie author. Thank you all for joining us today. See you in the next episode.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.